the horrors, they continue to come out to the world. And yet my fear is they're not going to change anything. They're not going to change these protests on the street. The college students aren't going to listen. It's already turned into a both sides kind of thing. How does Israel get out from under that?
Whoa, Megyn, good to be with you. Thank you. You know, full disclosure, I actually serve as an advisor to Eli Beer's organization, Hatzalah. It's an amazing organization. It's almost 8,000 paramedic volunteers who, free of charge, treat Jews, Arabs, Christians, and they themselves are Jews, Arabs, and Christians. Two of these volunteers were killed during the attack of Hamas. And I know Eli well. He's an extraordinary human being. But just listening to him talk, and I've heard him say this to me personally, it just brings us back, because in so many ways, we in Israel are still on October 7th. We haven't moved beyond it, because we're hearing these stories all the time. Just several hours ago, for the first time, Megyn, I saw pictures of those bodies, the babies' bodies. And I can't describe it. I'm an old warrior. I've been in the army for many years and war many times. I've never seen one, but I just haven't. And barely recognizable as human beings, as babies, adults. You can't really tell. We have between 100 and 200 bodies that we can't identify. You know how rare that is? You can't identify a body that can't get DNA out of them. That's how thoroughly they were incinerated and mutilated. We've compared the Hamas to animals. I think it's an insult to the animal kingdom. Animals would never do this to another living creature, never. So there, and you're on top of everything else is what's going on in Cornell. Last night I had a conference call, a Zoom call with the pro-Israel community at Cornell. They are living in panic. They've had to shut down the Center for Jewish Living. People have been barricading themselves in libraries at Cooper Union in New York. And what's almost as bad as the assaults on American Jews, and it's going on around the world, not just in America, is the silence. It's the anti-Semitism of silence, the silence of Hollywood stars and silence of university presidents, as those Ivy League colleges that you were mentioned. Silence is horrible. And there's a deep and profound moral failing. And I've written, I have a Substack called Clarity when I write about this, but I actually wrote an article this week on Barry Weiss's Substack on honesty. Barry's an old student of mine. I wrote a book called The Second War Against the Jews. The first one, of course, being the Holocaust. This is not a war against Israel alone. This is a war against the Jewish people globally, whether it's in Dagestan or in London or in Paris or in Ithaca, New York. It's a war against the Jewish people. And we've been here before. We've suffered before, but we have prevailed before, and we have survived and we've thrived. For Israel, this is clearly a war of survival. This is a war, an existential war. And one of the biggest threats we face, we got the face from Hezbollah, from Iran, from Hamas, the hostage situations. The number of hostages keep on going up because we're finding out more and more. They're now topping 230, going up to close to 240 hostages. The great fear, the great threat we're facing, believe it or not, is a ceasefire. Now, Hamas is very smart. They were going to release hostages or videos of the hostages one at a time. They're going to talk about how wonderful they're being treated by Hamas, and their one demand will be for a ceasefire. And in the international community, they're going to say, well, what's wrong with ceasefires? Ceasefires are good. Look, it's an ameliorative word. It's good. People aren't going to shoot each other. People are going to die. Why can't we have a ceasefire? Megyn, a ceasefire for Israel is death. Simply put, death. And I'll explain why. Ceasefire means that Hamas gets away with mass murder of the worst, most heinous type strike. Mass murder. A ceasefire means Israel will never be able to restore its internal security. We have 300,000 evacuees living in hotels, living in other people's houses. They won't be able to go back to their homes. You have children. Would you bring your children back to a border community that has sustained that type of carnage? And Hamas is not deterred. Hamas is allowed to restore its arsenals. make new plans for the next attack. And a ceasefire means we can't restore our deterrence power, not just against Hamas, but against Hezbollah, against Iran, against all our enemies in the region. The word was out. Israel is vulnerable. You can attack Israel with impunity. When Israel goes to defend itself, the international community will impose a ceasefire, and you'll get away with it. That's what ceasefire means. So, I don't carry a gun anymore. Alas, I mean it. But my job is to go out to try to explain to the world why this ceasefire means death for the state of Israel. It's a hard job. We'll be doing it tonight again, news. But that has to be our message. We need time and space for our army to undertake perhaps the most difficult missions ever undertaken, fighting in the streets, alleys of Gaza, which are booby-trapped in mind, but it's also what's beneath the street. It's the hundreds of miles of tunnels and bunkers, some of them hundreds of feet beneath the surface. That's where the real war is going to be fought, and somewhere down there are our hostages. Imagine that. And all the time, with 150,000 rockets in the hands of Hezbollah pointed at our heads, and Iran, rockets pointed at our heads, rockets in the hands of Shiite militias in Iraq, rockets in the hands of Houthi rebels in Yemen, backed by Iran. We are very grateful for the help we've been given by the Biden administration, by the United States, at a time when I'd say there's bipartisan support for not getting involved in foreign military entanglements again, particularly not in the Middle East. We have these two very large naval carrier strike forces in our region, and we're very appreciative of the deterrence that they are effecting against Hezbollah and Iran. At the end of the day, Israel has to defend itself at great cost of our own soldiers. Last night I went down south near Gaza. The sky was lit up by rockets, and I visited my old paratrooper unit. These kids are 18 years old, and to me looked like children with guns. But this unit had been one of the first units to respond to the attacks on October 7th at Kibbutz Be'eri, near Yitzhak, Gaza. The things they saw there, no human being should ever witness. And they fought, and some of them didn't come home. And I saw in the faces of these children, I saw aged faces, children with very old faces with guns. And they're going back into battle. They're going back into battle, and they know it. And I saw the same fear on the faces of those Cornell students I spoke to last night. It was unnerving. I say unnerving.
The age of the Israeli soldiers. I mean, it's just. I have a 14-year-old boy. I cannot imagine in 4 years him having to go into a place like Gaza and fight for his life and for the life of his countrymen. I will say this: a friend of mine and a Jewish American just wrote me a long, thoughtful email about the whole conflict. And she was raising a good point. She said in Israel, mandatory military service takes place, I think, for 3 years, starting at 18. Mm-hmm. And she said and that's what the Israelis do. They go, they learn about defending their country, about honor, about working as a team, about what it means to be an Israeli. Here in the United States, what do we do when our kids turn 18? We send them to college for 4 years of indoctrination in radical far left thinking. We try intentionally to drive wedges between them and their parents, them and their country. We try to have people with a radical agenda imprint their beliefs on our children as opposed to helping our children figure out how to critically think for themselves. It's such a diversion between the way Israel treats its young teens and the way we treat our teens. Not that anybody wants to see their 18-year-old go off to war, and yet what choice did Israel have?
Yeah, I know. It's one of the reasons that wokeism hasn't taken root really here, is the fact that our young people, by the time they hit universities, they have flown F-16s, they have commanded tanks. Many of them have seen action. Some of them are married already. And so when a professor gets up there and talks about these things, about critical race theory or microaggressions, they look at them and say, well, you're going to be kidding.
Right.
It's very different if you're a very impressionable 18-year-old. And this is the first, major authority you're seeing telling you these things. So it is a bulwark against that. It is. But Megyn, I don't have words for these kids, for these young people. I don't. they're beautiful and they're brave. And I think just about all Israelis understand that we have no choice here, that they have to go forth and defend us.
Well, like you said, I
And
mean,
I'm-
if for no other
yeah.
reason than deterrence. If you don't, you're going to be seen as an even bigger target than you already are. That's Israel's only way forward. If they do not eliminate Hamas right now, others are going to see an opportunity. I know you've written about this in the past. Let me ask you a question coming from the other side, the other argument, from people who are pro-Palestinian, I'll put it that way, to be charitable, who say there's no military solution to be had, that we've seen these skirmishes, mowing the lawn over the past 20 years or however long it's been since 2005, since Gaza was returned entirely to Hamas. And nothing ever gets solved with rockets or return rocket fire, death begetting death on small scales or large scales. And, you listen to these pro-Palestinian advocates and they basically say, I don't even think they want a two-state solution exactly, Ambassador. I think they want a one-state solution that doesn't involve Israel. But what kind of peaceful resolution could there possibly be?
So again, citing my old age here, I've started off my public career as an advisor to the Yitzhak Rabin government in 1993 at the time of the Oslo Accords. And I've been through every peace process. I actually participated in the last round of discussions, negotiations with the Palestinians. And one of the big problems is we talk in terms of solutions. There are not a lot of solutions for many problems in the Middle East. Not a solution for Syria. There's not a solution for Egypt. The solution is not going to be had, but there are better ways of managing it. One of the big impediments to managing it better is the belief that there's a solution. And that's not going to happen. But certainly there is a solution to the grave damage done to Israel's deterrence power, to our internal security, and to the relationship between the people of Israel and the state of Israel, because to say very frankly, on October 7th and 8th, the state kind of let us down, right? Whether it be the military, the police, let us down. So we have to restore that relationship. We have a social contract, just like every other state. This social contract was a very particular social contract because Israel was created 3 years almost to the date after the end of the Holocaust. And the promise this country made to the Jewish people was that a second Holocaust couldn't happen, that Jews would be secure here. And that social contract sustains some pretty significant shredding on October 7th and 8th, those two horrible days. We have to restore that. We cannot do that without a military response. Hamas can be uprooted. It can be driven out of its tunnels. It can be mowed down, if you, whatever adjective, whatever verb you want to use. It will no longer be in control of the Gaza Strip. And you can say you can't get rid of the idea of Hamas, and that's true. And any more you can get rid of the idea of ISIS or Al-Qaeda. Any more you can get rid of the idea of Nazism. But the fact that there is no Nazi Germany today means that neo-Nazis do not have the power that they had. The Nazis had in the 1930s and 1940s. The fact that the United States degraded ISIS and Al-Qaeda greatly reduced the threats of those two terrorist organizations. There's no solution by bombs and bullets. Tell that to Nazi Germany. Tell that to Imperial Japan. I think there were some solutions there, don't you?
Some people take CBD for better sleep or less stress and more calm. Some take it for pain relief, better energy, or better focus and concentration. Today, I want to tell you about CB Distillery and their over 2 million satisfied customers. According to a poll of their customers, 90% reported they sleep better with CBD. 81% said CBD helps with stress, and 80% said CBD helps with aches and pain after physical activity. If you struggle to get a good night's sleep, if you're dealing with too much stress and could use a little calm in your life, if you suffer from pain and discomfort, especially after physical exercise, you could give CBD a try from cbdistillery.com. Use my 20% discount by visiting cbdistillery.com. Enter my initials MK to get your discount. No prescription required. That's cbdistillery.com. Promo code MK for 20% off. cbdistillery.com. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.